Good morning, market enthusiasts, and welcome to the last day of the quarter, and what a quarter it has been. Okay, the moment that you have been waiting for. If you remember, I spoke for you in May and a couple weeks before that, and both times I was rather negative on the gold and the silver only because I felt that they were not ripe yet. And part of that was the fact that everybody in the world seemed to be bullish. So it was simply based off of a sentiment perspective, not necessarily any chart formations, but also the seasonals were not supportive of a move yet. In other words, they just weren't ripe. And these evil little markets, so here I'll show you my first chart. SLV. What is so interesting about that chart? Absolutely nothing at all, except for the fact that it has by now driven everybody crazy out there. And that's what this market likes to do, is to chop and slice and dice and whipsaw and fake out and shake out until it is ripe. And today, the last day of the quarter, it is definitely ripe, like a nice piece of fruit maturing on a tree. And so what I particularly like, other than the fact that it has sliced and diced everybody to death here, is the fact that you have now been able to fully correct back down on this MACD you see at the bottom here. And that's always very positive. You know that it was Gann who said price equals time. And so we had a heck of a markup, and then we had to have a proportionate type of consolidation. So that's from one of the greats of technical analysis. Price equals time, and I think that this clock is about to strike the midnight bell now. Check out these seasonals. If you remember when I first started talking at the beginning of May and was not enthusiastic about gold, in addition to the sentiment readings, it was because you can see here May is one of the lousiest months for gold, okay? But as we go into July, this shows the percentage of months in which gold, and I'm just using GLD as a proxy here, closed higher than where it opened. And truly, August is where the bloom takes place. So we have now entered into a period where we have potentially, and I always have to knock on wood when I get too enthusiastic, potentially can have the best 2 months going forward here with this gold. But even more compelling is, look at how silver, and I'm using SLV as the proxy there, has this sweet spot in the seasonals during the month of July. So we've come off of this kind of crummy chop and slop month in June, and now we are starting to pick up and break out. And just this morning we actually made new 20-day highs in gold. So it's never a straight line up, but perhaps that irritating sideways line now has done its thing, and these two markets are ready to be better performing. I do like the GDXJ, the junior gold miners, has been displaying the best relative strength over the GDX, but truly it really doesn't matter. You know, pick your horse to ride. They're all going to perform well. And look at down here on this MACD, how this is just starting to cross back up. So something very constructive. Now, for this month of June, we have been seeing multiple all-time new highs in both the NASDAQ and the NYSE. So now on this last day of the quarter, this morning when I checked, we had 9 all-time new highs in the NAS and 5 in the NYSE, which doesn't sound compelling other than the fact that it's coming on top of all these other record high readings. And as we know, the first 2 weeks in July tend to be very positive. They have a good upside bias, coupled with the Fed maintaining a nice sea of liquidity. So I just wanted to show you 1 or 2 other ideas that are not the visible hotspots on the board like the NVIDIA and the Amazons and the Spotifys and the shops. So let's just look at 1 or 2 different things. I liked this HOLX, which actually is a maker of medical equipment for women, and you can see how it's really consolidated its markup that we had off of those lows in March. So I really like that long consolidation and a little bit of a shakeout, and it might be a little bit tricky to see on this chart here, but if we could just blow up these last 6 trading days, you will see a very compelling flag, and it is not far away from making all-time new highs now. In addition, with this also this long correction here on the MACD ready to turn back up. Now note, when it had this initial push up, you saw the lovely volume come in, and as we consolidated and corrected, we had light volume on the pullback. So classic charting there. So there's one interesting idea that I have not heard anybody talk about. I tried to find some off the beaten track types of examples for you, although honestly in this type of market environment it kind of comes down to throw darts at a dartboard, and the odds are you're going to catch something that's got a little bit of a bid to it. And then the last one here, Zoetis. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce this, so we affectionately call it Zits, my assistant and I, but it's got a little bit of a deeper pullback, but I like this ABC type of rhythm, and it's always most advantageous to look for stocks that have just had a pullback of 2 to 3 days to the downside. Now, this is slightly different because you see the increase in volume that came in down here, but if we can truly get back up above that 2-day high, I think it could be really interesting. So keep an eye on that. That 2-day high level, just so you know, is not that far away, but you really want to see it start taking out this close to 136. So it's got some room to turn back up, but then if it can, you should have plenty of upside. So as a reminder here, July is a positive seasonal month. The first 2 weeks of July perform much better than the second 2 weeks of July. So rock and roll, go for it. End of the quarter, you have a whole fresh clean slate ahead of you with a new quarter on which to start all over again with our portfolios and performance if you are a trader. Everybody have a wonderful 4th of July. Stay safe, God bless, and thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, Grayson Rose here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're going to bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.